Hi everyone, welcome back to Terra Normal. My name is Tara. Today I have with me a very special guest. Melissa is with me to talk about some ghostly experiences. It is probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about. Every time I meet someone, somehow it always comes up. So I'm not sure why. Now today we are currently at the office that I touched base with Brandy about a little bit. We've had a lot of experiences here, and we wanted to talk about that a little bit today. But also Melissa has, as she's gone about her life, has had some experiences and some things come up. So I wanted to talk to her about that and see what her thoughts are. So, hi Melissa.
Hi Tara. Excited to be here.
Yay!
Well, not so much at work, but excited to be on your podcast.
Yes, of course.
We are in no means doing this over working hours right now. We're in a bit of a lull, so.
Yeah, that's for our boss, just so he knows.
That's our CYA. But yeah, I just wanted to join Tara because we've had a lot of great conversations since we've met each other. And I've had some experiences of my own throughout my life that I've shared with people, and we've all kind of been like, oh yeah, that's kind of crazy. But in talking with Tara about them, I realized just how much it touches people, and some people don't really know what to do with it. I know I didn't at first, as far as making sense of it, or trying to, or just enjoying it, or really not enjoying it, depending on what it is and where the energy's coming from. And there's a lot going on at this office, too, that we know of now, learning the history of our office. And it's kind of come full circle that we've both had our own experiences, some of the other people in the office have, and just sharing that through each other. We may have called out upon some things going on in the office, but I think it was meant to be.
But what's funny is, I wanted to say this really quick, because we've had a few people here that are not very big on believing.
Yes.
That, won't say his name, but he's here all the time after hours and fixing things and whatnot, and he's always telling us that we're crazy. So, but I feel like everyone in general kind of has a sense or a feeling that there's something.
Yes.
But maybe they haven't, they're not open to it or something. I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility.
Yeah, and also any strange things that might happen, like doors opening or cabinets being open or strange sounds, machines going on. For me, it's lights here. Going on and off, crazy electrical wave things like the computer, the mouse. We had an experience where the mouse kind of went up and down on its own. The rollerball was moving on its own, and no one was working it remotely. It was very interesting. You can't deny it. I mean, that there's something. You might want to try to come up with a rational reason for it, but we haven't yet.
Yeah, some nights I try to ignore it when I'm here after hours.
Yeah.
Because just for my own sanity, so I'm not...
Yeah.
I'm not running out of the building completely unprepared with without keys or something,
Yeah.
But,
and for what it's worth, learning the history of this building just made everything we were feeling that much more real, which we'll kind of delve into in a little bit. So.
Yeah.
But, so I I had my own experiences start probably in my very early 20s. It was, I always had a sense of, I would say, magic in my life throughout my childhood. I grew up an only child, so I had to do a lot of my own playing and my own kind of make-believe. And I remember moving into my apartment for the first time in my early 20s, and things were a little more real. I had a different surrounding. I moved into an apartment that was a converted community hospital, and I found this out after when I tried to replace a low-hanging ceiling tile, and when it dropped, I found graffiti and all sorts of stuff up on the cinder blocks underneath it. And
I don't think I've heard this story.
Oh yeah, you might not have heard this backstory. So I found that.
That's crazy.
After a particular experience where I was laying in my bed, and it was middle of the night, around 2-3 a.m., and I woke up, and I just, you pull the covers over you because you think that's going to protect you from anything. But I'm sitting there just sweating, and I was like, oh, something just felt off. And suddenly at the bottom of my feet, I felt a depression on the bed, as if someone was sitting there, how the covers kind of tighten and pull your feet down. and I looked down at my feet, and the covers were in fact depressed, as if someone's bottom was sitting on them, but nothing was there. And I remember it lifting up, and I remember me sitting there, and I think I probably stayed awake for another couple hours after that. Turned on the lights. That was kind of my really first experience with something sort of that I couldn't explain.
Yeah.
So
that's a really crazy experience.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of people are like, oh, did you really feel that? And I was there. I definitely did. I was not on any crazy medications. I wasn't drinking. It was literally me going to sleep and having that experience. So I remember after the incident with the bed depression that I was in my kitchen a couple months later in the same apartment, and accidentally, I don't know how, something got flung up in the air and something happened with one of the ceiling tiles, the plastic drop ceiling tiles, and it shattered on the floor. And when I looked up where the light was on the cinder block beneath, it was very rough looking, unlike the nice apartment they made below. There was graffiti everywhere, and that's what made me ask the front desk what the building used to be. And I found out that it was a community hospital, and a couple of the buildings were devoted to a sanitarium, which is essentially where they put sick people.
That's so crazy.
Mentally or physically, in these wards. And if you looked at the apartment complex, they were L-shaped buildings that were kind of backing up to each other, and yeah, it looked kind of like an insane asylum.
Now I see it.
Now I totally see it.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was my first experience with that.
It's a little unsettling to
learn
that,
to find that out, but also fascinating. So
yeah.
I was fascinated by it, and I may have invited it even more into my life.
Yeah.
My second experience is that I just went home over Christmas one year while I was in school in Indianapolis, and I drove home near my parents in Cherville, but of course I'll say Chicago because nobody knows where Cherville, Indiana is. Tara knows that.
Northwest Indiana.
Yes. Gary. Anyway, everybody assumes Gary, but yeah, it's Cherville, which is actually kind of close to Gary, but I digress. So my second experience, I shouldn't say second, it was probably my fifth, but the second one I can clearly remember was driving home for Christmas one year, and I had a vivid dream. My grandmother had passed away earlier that month in December, and I came home for her funeral, and I remember a few days before Christmas having a vivid dream about her giving me a jewelry box, a wooden jewelry box. And the crazy thing is that my grandpa was still alive, and he still was buying presents for grandkids and dropping them off, and he'd sign a card that just said his name, not my grandma and grandpa anymore, but they'd always get us just a little gift for every grandkid. And my grandpa wasn't there Christmas morning, but we were opening gifts, and sure enough, I opened the gift from him, and it was a small wooden jewelry box, which I still have, and this was about 20 years ago, and I just had chills. I remember sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, and I knew nobody would believe me, if I said, I had a dream 2 days ago about getting a jewelry box.
Right.
And it had a little window on the top, a little mirror with some like frosted glass leaves, and it was amazing because I thought, oh my gosh. And I asked my dad, where he got it. He said, well, your grandpa brought it for you, and he gave me the card, and it just had my grandpa's signature, and all he signed with was grandpa. And it was just kind of insane that something like that happened so soon after. It was fortuitous almost, or just...
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then that night, I was sitting we had a long staircase in our house, and I was sitting on the carpet on the stairs and looking at the jewelry box, just thinking about that. And it was kind of dark. I had some of the lights off, and I felt this cold rush on my back, almost like a draft. And I remember just sitting there in it and not being scared, but just knowing that my grandma had made this happen, that she had put something out there, and it was amazing.
Maybe gave your grandpa a message to buy this jewelry box or something.
Yes, or he might be in the store and
maybe you had that dream so that you knew that this was from her.
Yeah, so that this was,
That's
and
amazing.
it was like a message. So no one can really get into your dreams, no one physically, in this world really can. And even though images are imprinted on our minds and they may manifest in our dreams, I didn't realize that could happen, and then also possibly tell the future in a way.
Yeah.
And sort of foretell what might happen, a couple days later through someone else.
Yeah.
And then once I had that cold rush, I mean, it was very tangible. I could feel it against my back and not on my front. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my grandma's here. She's here. And that's when it really hit me. Oh my goodness, I'm not making more of this. Like, it's happening. But it was very calming almost. Yeah. And some of the energies I know we felt here at the office are a bit more chaotic.
Yeah.
And I know it probably depends on where they're coming from and the state that they're in. And that's a whole other realm of conversation. But anyway, those are my two main experiences that I vividly remember in my early 20s. I had a few more here and there, but nothing really profound until I came to this office.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've always kind of had like a weird feeling here. Something's just always been off.
Yeah.
After hours, you don't want to stay very long. Sometimes you feel like there's something keeping you here, though. I've had a few cases where we're talking and I'm like, why am I not home?
Yes.
Like, I want to go. I don't want to be at work. Who wants to be at work?
Well, we all love each other, and we love being around each other. But even the other night, I sat here, and my mom has my kids at home, and I literally sat in my office that we're in right now, and I just sat in my cubby and wasn't even talking or socializing. I wasn't, browsing the internet. I wasn't doing anything on my phone. I was just in here, like, looking for something to do. And I thought, what in the world am I doing here? It's 6:05, and we finished with our patient a good hour before. And then suddenly I, had to force myself to leave. And it's odd.
Well, I mentioned this kind of when I was talking to Brandy. I've had nights where I'm completely done, should be leaving, and I'll literally sit up front on my phone and just scroll through my phone.
Yes.
Why would I not go and do that? Why would I not sit in my car? Why? It's just a very odd feeling.
Yes, it's an energy that is it's weighty. It feels heavy and burdensome almost, but it's almost like gravity. It pulls you in, like a black hole. Yeah. Like it just pulls you in, and it's subtle though, but it's something where you suddenly realize that you're like, oh my gosh, I've been here, and I could have left.
Been here an hour.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my life?
And we don't get us wrong. We enjoy being here and being around each other, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to go home and relax.
Yeah, you're tired.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to go home? But we did find out some things from the history of this place.
Yes. Which
I have some theories on why we wouldn't want to, what would be keeping us here. So, Melissa has done a little bit of research on what this building used to be. Yes. We all kind of had an idea. It used to be a house, and then it was a psychiatrist's office, therapist's office, what have you. And we one day were really curious about what the exact history was of this office.
And we stayed here after work for 2 hours.
And we stayed there literally till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, just looking up what the history was and past stories and whatever. And
I can give a very brief history. I actually think I want to get a little more specific with it, maybe in another podcast, and talk about it specifically name-wise. But I'd like to give a little bit of a history with it, and then we can talk about some of our experiences. Pretty much the gist of it in generic form is that this was a house. We are on a main road right now, and it used to be just a residential house. The road got widened, it turned into an office building, and there was a psychologist or psychiatrist space here. I believe psychiatrist, because as we'll probably do in a later podcast, we'll tell more about her history.
Yeah.
But either way, there was the majority of the office is actually downstairs in the basement. There's a one-way window and a viewing office. Very interesting cinder block room.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
It's creepy. It's just something out of a movie. It's very Buffalo Bill, Silence of the Lambs. So anyway, we don't do much down there. We have a microwave and we're all terrified to go. But
We run up the stairs when we're done.
We do, and we hear something chasing us. But
yeah.
The interesting thing is that this psychiatrist dealt with a lot of different patients, so we're trying to pinpoint exactly which spirit or energy might be here. There may be multiple ones. They may appear at different times. We're not sure. But the very interesting part about this is that there was a guy who was put in jail for a brutal murder of a little girl who had come to visit his apartment and play with some of the other little girls in the complex. And it's the very shortened version. And this psychiatrist actually represented this guy, not as his lawyer, but as his mental, I guess, sort of go-between to describe his mental state. And he was interviewed extensively at this office. And it's just very interesting. We might have to go into more of a podcast, but we're thinking that some of those energies may be from the little girl or from the victims of the people who she might have been working with. She was a forensic psychiatrist. And we just really wonder if some of those energies attached and felt comfortable here once they were talked about. We're not sure.
Because I've said before, sometimes when I feel like there's something here, and some of the instances that have happened feels very childlike. It feels like
play.
Someone's trying to play with you, or just trying to kind of. They're just very mischievous.
Yes.
And
like the rollerball in the mouse moving.
Yeah, or cupboards opening, or there was one night when I was here cleaning after hours, and I was in the back of the office, and towards the front of the office there are these two doors. They're glass doors. They connect from the waiting room to the rest of the office, and when they open and close, they have a pretty distinct sound. And one night I was here, and I kept hearing those doors opening and closing. But the funny thing is, when you watch kids in here, they go through those doors all the time because they're these like glass doors and kind of going around in a circle.
Yeah, they don't really latch.
No.
So they are easy to open and close.
Yeah, so it's it just reminds me of what I've noticed with some of the kids that come through the office.
Yes.
Kind of do.
Yes. And the energy, the electric energy.
Yeah.
Which, as we all know, kids can be very high energy, very in tune with that. And I notice a lot of electrical activity, whether it's flickering lights going off, lights not turning on, one light turning, we think a light bulb's out, and then it just turns on again, and we think it's because it's not screwed in. Again, we try to find a logical reasoning for it. And we go to check it, and it's plugged in just fine, and it just goes on and off. It's a faulty bulb, so we replace it, and it keeps doing it. It's the same bulb or the same one, or it moves. And it's hard to explain that rationally or logically, why that would be happening, other than something that's able to work with those forces.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not believe it's a message, or at least maybe not something specific, but just a communication of some kind.
Yeah, because even when I was setting up the equipment for this particular podcast, in the office, we had a few technical difficulties. Certain thing, my computer wasn't turning on the way it should, and it was echoing all crazy.
Crazy feedback, or not feedback, static.
Static, yeah.
Lots of static.
And then the machine's not turning on properly or not being set properly. Even though all the dials were correct, it's all very...
even just now, we plugged something in and unplugged it, and suddenly it sounded better. And I don't know.
I'm like, there's no...
that, maybe it's logical, like, we didn't have it plugged in, but it sounded better whether it was plugged in or not. It was very odd that it happened afterwards. So, a lot of just interesting energy. Phones ringing, we don't know what line they're going to. We go to pick them up, and we can't, and it's just... very odd, very interesting things, but fun too. There's an air again of playfulness about it.
Exactly.
Where it's hard to not believe that it's something, maybe not a spirit, but there's some energy that's causing it to do that. Some disturbance, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it kind of is.
And terrifying when you're here alone.
I was gonna say some nights, but I feel like they can communicate with you, honestly, because. I've had certain nights, and this just happened just the other night, where I was here by myself, which is typical for me, and I was just so tired and so drained from the day, and I just, sounds super crazy, but I said out into like no one and to nothing, I'm not in the mood for this tonight. Please don't try anything with me.
Yes.
And it listened, at least I think it did. I didn't notice anything crazy go on. I didn't have any crazy experiences that night. So
yeah,
I think they're pretty respectful. Like,
I think so too. And that,
I don't know.
It kind of actually brings up, I can't even believe I forgot to mention this, but my, since moving here, one of my experiences, speaking of it being not playful, but the interaction, I had one that was a little more terrifying with my kids, where I did end up having to interact with whatever it was going on, and for some reason I kept thinking its name was Michael. One of the other people who work here who reads cards had mentioned to me it could have been the Archangel Michael. But
yeah,
either way,
like, don't wish him away.
Yeah, don't wish him away. So I quickly reversed that, but I felt a Michael presence, and I remember my youngest or my oldest having horrible night terrors, and I would hold him, and he would look back over my shoulder, and every time I would turn him around, he would hurry up and fling his head around to try to look wherever it was he was looking. And I just looked around me and it was dark. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, he has to be seeing something I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
And it's happened with a couple of my other kids, only at a certain age, or they'll just kind of stare off. And I'm just like, what are you looking at? And, they won't say things like the movies where there's someone standing there, mommy. It's not like that. But you can tell they're picking up on something and it's freaking them out. And it could just be a nightmare. It could just be that they're thinking something or their minds are developing. But it is very clear that it is in a definite direction and a definite space and time behind me. And then if I turn around, it's in front of me and they're wheeling their heads around. And so I can't help but think there's something there. And I had some things go on in our house. The death of the previous owner's son while she was on vacation. It was a post-surgical complication. And so there was a death in our house, and so I can't help but think it's connected to that. Yes. But as soon as I reached out, I just talked down the hallway where I felt the energy, and in the bedroom where it was at, I just said, please leave us alone. You're terrifying my children. You're starting to freak me out. I don't mind you communicating with me, but please do it in a manner that doesn't absolutely terrify us.
Yeah.
And it completely stopped. And this is probably happened maybe twice a week for about a month, and then it suddenly stopped. And we haven't had it since. And I have tried to bring the Archangel Michael back in, not even on religious terms, but just inviting any good energy back in.
Right.
Because the name Michael kept coming up, and I thought at first it was the energy, and I actually think it was something protective. But just trying to figure out things like that. It's interesting, and I think we're going to have a lot more fodder in the future things to talk about with this building.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Which I think we're trying to line up a ghost hunt here. We've been trying to for a while.
For Tara's birthday, which was back.
Which was in May. And it's September 14th as we're recording this.
Yes.
This will probably air a little later, but yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit. But hold tight.
Yeah, we do have plans to do that, and we have most everyone on board, I think.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Everybody
to participate.
It's hard not to believe it when you work here. We're here day in, day out, and it's hard not to think there's something going on and to not be curious about it. So we'll have to invite the one skeptical person to see if he'll want to come along. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see what he says. I don't know.
You almost have to feel it. It's hard to convince somebody without feeling it, and I feel weird telling people because it just sounds like I'm absolutely crazy. But
no, unless I've had like a conversation with somebody in the past, I don't tell them that I'm scared of my work. Like,
I'm scared to clean, and I'm scared to see people, and we're doing entire podcasts on it, and we're gonna hire ghost hunters, but it would be fascinating to find out. So we'll find a little bit more history of this area. Yeah, and if anyone's interested, just stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I'm really excited for that.
I am too. So,
but this has been really fun talking to you.
I know, you too. We should do this again.
Yeah.
And my cubby, because we finally got the sound.
We never talk.
I know. But... This is the only time we talk as we're doing these podcasts. This is the first time
I'm like,
we've
don't
actually
talk
talked.
To me all day until we have a microphone. Because...
And then we're going to finish with our work at 5 and then be here till 6:30.
Yeah.
So just so everyone's aware.
Yeah.
We're
so if any other occurrences happen, then I guess there'll be an update of this. But
yes, definitely.
But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. Anything else we should talk about for now?
Not so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the ghosts are listening. I think the spirits are listening in the building right now.
Oh, they for sure are.
I think we're going to have a lot more to talk about now that we've conjured something.
They for sure are.
But, yeah, we may have to sage the office.
Stay too late
here.
Yeah, we sage the office periodically because...
And ourselves.
Yeah. But I think that's more because of the people who come in and out of our office.
The living folk.
Yeah, I feel like their energy has an effect on all of this, too.
It does.
Maybe I'm not completely correct on that, but...
I definitely think that the... energy that we bring in, if it maybe they can communicate, the spirits can communicate a different way to us, we definitely have an effect on it. Mm-hmm. Negative, positive, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you have to be receptive to it. That's the other thing. You do almost have to believe before you can see or feel it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you will just push it off as something else. And I don't think we're making too much of anything either, because there's a definite shift in the energy, and we can all feel it.
Oh, yeah.
And it does affect us, and it's hard sometimes to sway it in the other direction, but we do, and it's nice to have these days when we're more alone.
Yeah.
We can control the energy a little bit more.
Yeah, it's true.
Actually sage things and not have people look at us like we're crazy.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. So,
yeah.
Well, we'll call this a podcast.
Sounds good to me. Podcast done.
All right. Thank you guys for listening so much. And thank you for Melissa.
Thank you for having me, Tara.
To Melissa.
Yeah.
For being my guest. Yes. I am welcoming all people that want to talk to me at this point. So, and Melissa's been a great guest. So, thank you so much. Yes. If you guys would like to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, please visit me. It is Paranormal Podcast. If you would like to email me at paranormalpodcast@gmail.com for any scary stories or ideas or anything. Thank you guys so much. See you next time. Bye.